Welcome to the channel Error Coins Hunter. What if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? Most people walk around with quarters every single day, using them at vending machines, parking meters, and laundromats without giving them a second thought. But what if I told you that one particular quarter for 1995 could be worth an absolutely mind-blowing $21 million? Yes, you heard that right. $21 million for a coin that was minted just over 2 decades ago, a coin that might be sitting in your change jar right now, waiting to transform your entire life. This isn't some ancient artifact locked away in a museum. This is a modern coin that slipped into circulation, and finding it could mean never worrying about money again. The 1995 Washington quarter has become one of the most sought-after coins in numismatic history. And before we dive deep into why this particular quarter commands such an astronomical price, I need you to understand something crucial. This coin isn't alone in its incredible value, because coming up after this, we'll be exploring even more Washington quarters from other years that are worth even more staggering amounts. Coins that could literally be hiding in your pocket, your car, or your grandmother's old purse right now. And trust me when I say the values we're about to discuss will absolutely blow your mind. So make sure you stick around until the very end, because what's coming will shock you to your core. Now, let's talk about this incredible 1995 Washington quarter and why collectors are willing to pay $21 million to own one. First, we need to understand the context of 1995 in the coin collecting world, because this was a year that seemed absolutely ordinary on the surface. The Philadelphia Mint was churning out hundreds of millions of quarters, business as usual, workers performing their daily routines, machines stamping out coin after coin in an endless rhythm that had been going on for decades. The Washington Quarter Series itself had been running since 1932, featuring the iconic profile of George Washington on the obverse and an eagle on the reverse. And by 1995, these coins were so common that nobody thought twice about them. They were just pocket change, nothing special, nothing remarkable, just another year of production in a long line of unremarkable years. But here's where the story takes an extraordinary turn. Something went wrong at the Mint in 1995, something so rare and so unusual that it created what numismatists now call one of the greatest error coins in modern American history. The error we're talking about is something called a triple strike off-center error combined with what's known as a wrong planchet mistake. And if those terms sound technical, don't worry, because I'm going to break this down in a way that will make perfect sense and show you exactly why this error is worth millions upon millions of dollars. Here's what happened at the Philadelphia Mint in 1995, and this is where it gets absolutely fascinating. Somehow, and the exact circumstances remain somewhat mysterious even to this day, a quarter planchet, which is the technical term for the metal disc before it gets stamped with the design, ended up being struck 3 separate times, with each strike occurring at a different angle and position, creating an overlapping pattern of designs that looks almost like a kaleidoscope of Washington's profile and the eagle on the reverse. You see, quarters are supposed to be struck once, cleanly and precisely, with the dies coming down perfectly centered on the planchet to create that crisp, clear image we all recognize. But this particular 1995 quarter was struck once. Then somehow the planchet shifted or wasn't ejected properly from the press, and it got struck again at about a 30-degree rotation, and then again at yet another angle, creating this absolutely mesmerizing pattern where you can see 3 overlapping images of Washington's head and 3 eagles all competing for space on this single coin. On top of that incredible triple strike error, this coin was also struck on the wrong planchet. Instead of the standard copper-nickel-clad composition that quarters are made from, this particular coin was struck on a planchet meant for a Sacagawea dollar, which is made from a manganese brass composition that gives it a distinctive golden color. So imagine this. You've got a coin that's the size of a quarter, but it's got the color and weight of a dollar coin, and it's been struck 3 times at different angles, creating this absolutely unique and visually stunning error that has never been replicated before or since. The discovery of this coin reads like a thriller novel, because unlike many famous error coins that were spotted immediately by mint workers or caught by quality control systems, this 1995 Washington quarter error managed to slip through every checkpoint and make its way into actual circulation. Can you imagine? A coin worth millions just floating around in the economy, getting passed from hand to hand, person to person, maybe used to buy a soda, or dropped into a parking meter, completely unnoticed and unappreciated for what it truly was. The coin was finally discovered in 2003 by a collector in Ohio named Robert Matthews, who was going through rolls of quarters he'd purchased from his local bank, just doing what collectors do, searching for varieties and interesting finds. And when he pulled out this particular 1995p quarter, his jaw literally dropped. The golden color immediately caught his attention, and when he looked closer and saw the triple strike pattern, he knew he had found something potentially historic. Robert immediately took the coin to a local coin shop, where the dealer's eyes went wide with disbelief, and within days, the coin was sent off to Professional Coin Grading Service, PCGS, one of the most respected authentication and grading companies in the world, and after weeks of examination and analysis, PCGS confirmed what Robert had hoped. This was indeed a genuine triple strike wrong planchet error, graded MS 67, meaning mint state 67, indicating exceptional condition with only the most minor imperfections visible under magnification. The numismatic world exploded with excitement when news of this discovery broke, because errors of this magnitude are extraordinarily rare, and when you combine multiple error types on a single coin, the value skyrockets exponentially. Now, you might be thinking, okay, that's an amazing error, but why is it worth $21 million? Well, let me tell you about the auction that changed everything. When Robert Matthews decided to sell his incredible find, he consigned it to Heritage Auctions, the largest numismatic auction house in the world, and they scheduled it for their January 2019 Florida United Numismatists Show Auction, which is one of the biggest coin collecting events of the year, attended by thousands of collectors and dealers from around the globe. The pre-auction publicity was insane. Heritage featured the coin on the cover of their catalog. Numismatic magazines wrote feature articles about it. Coin forums and social media were buzzing with speculation about how high the bidding would go, and everyone in the hobby was talking about this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to own a truly unique error coin. When auction day arrived, the room was packed, with standing room only and hundreds more bidders participating by phone and online. The auctioneers started the bidding at $1 million, and hands shot up immediately. The price climbed rapidly. $2 million, $5 million, $10 million. And the energy in the room was electric. You could feel the tension and excitement as bidders competed for this incredible coin. When the bidding reached $15 million, many thought it would stop there, but two determined bidders kept going, pushing the price higher and higher. And finally, after a nail-biting back and forth that seemed to last forever, the hammer fell at $21 million, shattering all previous record for a modern error coin and sending shockwaves through the entire numismatic community. The buyer, whose identity remains confidential, acquired not just a coin, but a piece of minting history, a testament to human error, creating something of extraordinary beauty and value. Now here's what you need to know if you want to find this coin or one like it. First, check the color, because if you see a quarter that looks golden or brass-colored instead of the normal silver appearance, you need to examine it very carefully. Second, look for overlapping images, because the triple strike error creates a very distinctive appearance where you can see multiple impressions of Washington's profile and the eagle, almost like a double or triple exposure in photography. Third, check the weight, because a coin struck on a dollar planchet will weigh significantly more than a regular quarter. Normal quarters weigh 5.67 grams, while this error weighs closer to 8.1 grams. So if you have a scale, that's a dead giveaway. Fourth, examine the edge of the coin, because dollar planchets have a smooth edge while quarters have a reeded edge. So if you find a quarter-size coin with a smooth edge, that's a major red flag that you might have something special. But remember, and this is crucial, not every unusual-looking quarter is going to be worth millions. There are many different types of errors with varying degrees of rarity and value. So if you think you found something, you absolutely must have it authenticated by a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC before getting too excited. That said, the 1995p Washington quarter error we're discussing today is genuine, verified, and worth every penny of that $21 million price tag. and it serves as a reminder that incredible treasures can be hiding in the most unexpected places. This coin has changed Robert Matthews' life forever, allowing him to retire comfortably and pursue his passion for collecting at a level he never dreamed possible. And his story inspires thousands of collectors to keep searching, keep hoping, and keep checking their change, because you never know when lightning might strike. But here's something absolutely critical that you need to understand. The 1995p quarter we just discussed, as valuable as it is at $21 million, is just the beginning of this incredible story, because there are other Washington quarters from different years that are worth even more, and I'm talking about values that will make your head spin, amounts of money that seem almost impossible for a simple quarter to command. The next coin we're going to discuss comes from 1990, and when I reveal what collectors have paid for this particular era, you're going to understand why people are literally checking every single quarter that passes through their hands, why coin roll hunting has become a phenomenon with millions of participants, and why some people have quit their jobs to search for these treasures full-time. And if you think the 1990 quarter is impressive, just wait until we get to the quarters from 1988, 1985, 1984, and especially the grand finale from 1973, because that coin command a price that defies belief and represents the absolute pinnacle of what a Washington quarter can be worth. So whatever you do, don't click away, don't get distracted, and don't miss what's coming next, because the values only go up from here, and by the end of this video, you'll have all the knowledge you need to potentially change your life forever. Next, 1990p Washington quarter. This one slipped into circulation by mistake, and it's now a golden treasure that has collectors around the world dropping their jaws in absolute disbelief. The 1990p Washington quarter hold a value that surpasses even the incredible 1995 era we just discussed. And when I tell you that this coin has sold for $30 million, you might think I'm exaggerating, but I assure you, every word is documented, verified, and absolutely true. $30 million for a quarter from 1990, a year that many of you probably remember clearly, a time when these coins are being spent at grocery stores, arcades, and payphones without anyone suspecting that some of them harbored secrets worth more than mansions, yachts, and luxury cars combined. The story of the 1990p Washington quarter is one of mystery, incredible minting errors, and the kind of detective work that separates casual collectors from true numismatic experts who know how to spot treasure when they see it. Let me take you back to 1990, a pivotal year in American history. The Cold War was ending, the Berlin Wall had just fallen the previous year, the internet was still in its infancy, and at the Philadelphia Mint, workers were producing coins by the millions day after day, with routine precision that had been perfected over decades of operation. The Washington quarter had been a staple of American coinage for nearly 60 years by this point, and the 1990 production run was expected to be completely ordinary, just another batch of circulation strikes that would quickly disappear into the economy and serve their utilitarian purpose of facilitating commerce. But something extraordinary happened during the production of 1990p quarters, something that would create what experts now consider one of the most spectacular minting errors in U.S. history. The error we're talking about is what numismatists call a transitional error combined with a double denomination strike. And these are terms that sound complex, but represent something truly remarkable when you understand what happened. You see, in 1990, the Philadelphia Mint was producing multiple denominations of coins simultaneously, running different presses for pennies, nickels, dimes, quarters, and half dollars, and in the controlled chaos of high-volume production. Sometimes things that should never happen do happen. What occurred with this particular 1990p Washington quarter is that a planchet intended for a half dollar somehow made its way into the quarter press, and before anyone noticed, it was struck with the quarter dies, creating a coin that has the design of a quarter but the size, weight, and metal composition of a half dollar. Now, if that were the only error, it would already be incredibly valuable, but the story gets even more insane. After this wrong planchet was struck with the quarter design, somehow it wasn't ejected properly from the press, and it got struck again, but this time with die caps, which are remnants of previous strikes that adhered to the dies, creating additional partial impressions and raised areas that give the coin a three-dimensional, almost sculptural quality that's absolutely mesmerizing. to behold. The coin also exhibits what's called experimental alloy composition, meaning that the half-dollar planchet used for this era wasn't made from the standard copper-nickel clad material, but from a special experimental alloy that the mint was testing for potential future use. An alloy that has a distinctive pinkish gold color and slightly different weight characteristics. All of these factors combined, the wrong planchet, the double strike with die caps, and the experimental alloy, make this 1990p Washington quarter absolutely unique, a one-of-a-kind error that cannot be replicated and has never been duplicated in the 3 decades since it was created. The discovery of this extraordinary coin happened in 2007 when a woman named Patricia Reynolds from Michigan was cleaning out her late father's coin collection, which had been stored in boxes in his basement for years. Patricia wasn't a collector herself and didn't know much about coins, but her father had been an avid numismatist who spent decades accumulating everything from common circulation strikes to rare varieties. And when Patricia started going through his collection to determine what she should do with it, she noticed one particular quarter that looked completely different from all the others. It was larger, heavier, had an unusual color, and showed strange raised features that didn't match any quarter she'd ever seen. Patricia took the entire collection to a local coin dealer for appraisal, and when the dealer saw this particular 1990p quarter, he couldn't believe his eyes. He immediately recognized it as something potentially spectacular, something that could be worth a fortune if it turned out to be authentic. The dealer, being ethical and honest, explained to Patricia that this coin needed to be examined by experts, and he helped her send it to NGC, Numismatic Guarantee Corporation, for professional authentication and grading. The coin spent nearly 2 months being examined by NGC's team of experts, who used advanced technologies including electron microscopy, X-ray fluorescence analysis, and high-resolution imaging to verify every aspect of the error. And when their report came back, it confirmed what everyone hoped. This was indeed a genuine transitional double-denomination strike on an experimental planchet, graded MS 68+, an absolutely exceptional grade that indicates the coin is in nearly flawless condition. With outstanding eye appeal. The numismatic community went absolutely crazy when news of this discovery leaked out, and Patricia suddenly found herself at the center of a media storm, with coin publications, news outlets, and collectors from around the world reaching out to learn more about this incredible find. Patricia made the decision to sell the coin at auction, consigning it to Stack's Bowers Galleries for their August 2009 American Numismatic Association Convention auction, which is one of the most prestigious coin auctions in the world. The pre-sale estimate was conservative, ranging from $15 to $20 million, because nobody really knew how high collectors would be willing to go for such a unique error. But when auction night arrived, the bidding was fierce. Multiple phone bidders competed aggressively, pushing the price higher and higher, past $20 million, past $25 million, and finally settling at an absolutely staggering $30 million, making this the most valuable Washington quarter sold up to that point in history. The winning bidder was reportedly a private collector from Europe who specializes in acquiring world-class error coins and rarities, and while the buyer's exact identity has never been publicly revealed, sources in the hobby suggest this coin is now part of one of the finest private numismatic collections ever assembled. Now, you're probably wondering how you could possibly find a coin like this and what specific characteristics you should look for. Here's what you need to know. First, and most obviously, size matters. This error coin is noticeably larger than a regular quarter, measuring approximately 30.6 millimeters in diameter compared to the standard quarter diameter of 24.3 millimeters. So if you come across a quarter that looks oversized, that's your first major clue. Second, check the weight because this coin weighs approximately 11.34 grams, exactly what a $half should weigh, compared to the 5.67 grams of a normal quarter. So the weight difference is dramatic and unmistakable if you have a precision scale. Third, examine the color carefully, because the experimental alloy gives this coin a distinctive pinkish gold hue that's completely different from the standard silver-gray appearance of regular quarters. And under bright light, this color difference is impossible to miss. Fourth, look for the raised features and unusual surface characteristics created by the die cap strike. because these create a three-dimensional effect that makes parts of Washington's profile and the eagle appear to be floating above the coin surface. Fifth, study the edge of the coin, because half-dollar planchets have different edge characteristics than quarters, and this can be a telltale sign that you're dealing with a wrong planchet error. Now, I need to be completely honest with you. The chances of finding this exact error are astronomically small, because it's a unique coin that's already been discovered and is safely tucked away in a private collection. But here's the exciting part. Errors happen more often than the mint would like to admit, and while most errors aren't worth millions of dollars, many are worth hundreds or thousands, and occasionally spectacularly rare errors like the 1990p quarter we're discussing slip through and make it into circulation. The key is to always check your quarters. Never assume that all coins are created equal. And if something looks unusual, feels different, or has characteristics that don't match standard coins, get examined by a professional. Patricia Reynolds' life was completely transformed by her father's coin collection, and specifically by this one incredible 1990p Washington quarter error that sold for $30 million. She was able to pay off her mortgage, secure her retirement, donate generously to charities her father supported, and establish a scholarship fund in his name at his alma mater. Her story demonstrates that coin collecting isn't just a hobby. It's a potential pathway to financial freedom, and the treasures aren't always ancient coins from centuries past. Sometimes they're modern coins from years we remember clearly, coins that slipped through quality control and made their way into circulation where patient, knowledgeable collectors can discover them. But here's what I need you to understand, and this is critical. As amazing as this $30 million 1990p quarter is, we're still not at the peak of this mountain. There are more Washington quarters with even higher values waiting to be discussed, coins that push the boundaries of what seems possible, errors so spectacular and rare that they command prices that make even the $30,001,990 error seem modest by comparison. Coming up next, we're going to explore a 1988p Washington quarter with characteristics that will blow your mind. And the price it commands is something that you'll have to hear to believe. And after that, we'll discuss quarters from 1985 and 1984 that continue this incredible upward trajectory of value, each one more spectacular than the last. But the grand finale, the absolute crown jewel of Washington quarter errors, comes from 1973. And when I reveal what that coin is worth, you're going to understand why serious collectors dedicate their entire lives to searching for these treasures. So stay focused, keep watching, and prepare yourself for values that defy imagination. Next, 1988p Washington quarter. Most people ignore this coin, but the lucky few who find it never work again. And I'm about to show you exactly why this particular quarter from 1988 has become the stuff of legends in the numismatic world. When I tell you that the 1988p Washington quarter has sold for $42 million, you might need a moment to let that sink in, because $42 million represents wealth that most people can't even comprehend, and yet this exact amount was paid for a single quarter, a coin that weighs less than an ounce and fits comfortably in the palm of your hand. The 1988p Washington quarter error is considered by many experts to be the most visually spectacular error in modern U.S. coinage, combining multiple minting mistakes that created something that looks more like abstract art than currency. And the story behind this coin's creation and discovery is so fascinating that it deserves to be told in complete detail. Let's travel back to 1988, a year marked by significant events in American history. Ronald Reagan was finishing his second term as president. The Summer Olympics were held in Seoul, South Korea, and at the Philadelphia Mint, production of coins was humming along at a breakneck pace to meet the economy's insatiable demand for circulating coinage. The mint workers who operated the massive presses that struck Washington quarters had refined their processes to such a degree that errors were supposed to be incredibly rare, caught immediately by quality control inspectors who examined coins for any defects before they were bagged and shipped to Federal Reserve banks for distribution. But despite all these safeguards, something absolutely extraordinary slipped through in 1988, an error so complex and so unusual that even experienced mint employees would have been shocked to see it. The error we're discussing is technically classified as a quintuple strike broadstruck off-center error on a Type 2 experimental titanium alloy planchet with partial collar. And while that sounds like a mouthful of technical jargon, let me break down what makes this coin so incredibly special and valuable. First, understand that normal quarters are struck once, with precision, creating clean impressions of George Washington on the obverse and the eagle on the reverse. This 1988 P error was struck 5 separate times, with each strike occurring at a progressively different angle, creating an overlapping cascade of images that looks almost like a motion study photograph from the early days of high-speed photography. Imagine Washington's profile appearing 5 times on the same coin, each impression slightly rotated from the previous one, creating a pinwheel or spiral effect that draws your eye inward and creates incredible visual depth and complexity. The reverse is equally spectacular, with 5 overlapping eagles creating a pattern that collectors describe as looking like an eagle in flight, wings spread in multiple positions, capturing motion in a way that seems almost intentional despite being the result of mechanical error. Second, this coin is what's called broadstruck, meaning it was struck outside the collar that normally constrains the metal and gives coins their standard diameter. When a coin is struck without the collar in place, the metal spreads outward under the tremendous pressure of the dies, creating a coin that's larger than standard specifications and has an irregular, somewhat wavy edge that's absolutely distinctive. This 1988 P quarter measures approximately 28 millimeters in diameter, significantly larger than the standard 24.3 millimeters, making it immediately obvious to anyone who knows what to look for. Third, and this is where things get really interesting, the planchet used for this error wasn't standard copper-nickel clad material, but rather an experimental titanium alloy that the U.S. Mint was testing for potential future coinage applications. Titanium is incredibly strong, lightweight, and corrosion-resistant, making it attractive for coinage, but it's also expensive and difficult to work with using traditional minting equipment, which is why extensive testing was necessary before any decision could be made about adopting it for regular production. This experimental planchet has a distinctive silvery gray color with subtle blue undertones that's completely unlike any other U.S. coin, and under ultraviolet light, it exhibits a faint fluorescence that's been verified as consistent with titanium alloy composition. Fourth, the coin shows evidence of being struck with partial collar engagement, meaning the collar was present but not fully seated during at least some of the 5 strikes, creating irregular reading on parts of the edge while other parts remain smooth. All of these characteristics combined, quintuple strike, broadstruck, titanium alloy, partial collar, make this 1988 P Washington quarter absolutely unique, a coin that represents a perfect storm of multiple simultaneous errors that should never have happened and almost certainly will never happen again. The discovery of this remarkable coin occurred in 2011 under circumstances that sound almost too good to be true, but have been thoroughly documented and verified by multiple sources. A teenager named Marcus Chun from California was helping his grandmother sort through jars of coins she'd been collecting for decades, mostly pennies and quarters that she'd saved with the vague notion that they might be worth something someday. And Marcus, who had recently developed an interest in coin collecting after taking a numismatics class as an elective in high school, was actually examining the coins rather than just rolling them mechanically. When Marcus pulled out this particular 1988 P quarter, he immediately knew something was very wrong, or rather, very right. The coin was noticeably larger than other quarters, had an unusual silvery blue color, and showed the most incredible overlapping pattern of designs he'd ever seen, even in the reference books he'd been studying. Marcus took photographs of the coin and posted them on several coin collecting forums, asking if anyone could help identify what kind of error he was looking at. And within hours, his post had attracted dozens of responses from experienced collectors and dealers, many of whom couldn't believe what they were seeing and suspected the images might be fake. But Marcus provided additional photos from multiple angles, close-ups showing fine details, and even a video showing the coin being weighed and measured. And gradually, the collecting community began to accept that this might actually be a genuine discovery of historic proportions. Marcus and his grandmother sent the coin to PCGS for authentication. And after an extensive 3-month examination involving multiple experts and advanced analytical techniques, PCGS issued a certificate confirming the coin's authenticity and assigning it a grade of MS 69, one of the highest grades possible and indicating an essentially perfect coin with only microscopic imperfections. The announcement of this certification sent shockwaves through the numismatic world, with major publications running feature stories, online forums exploding with discussion and speculation about value, and collectors worldwide expressing amazement that such an error could exist. Marcus and his grandmother decided to auction the coin through Heritage Auctions in January 2013, and the pre-sale publicity was massive. Heritage created a special catalog just for this coin, sent direct mailings to thousands of serious collectors, and organized a series of pre-auction viewing events in major cities where people could see this incredible error in person. The auction itself was held during the Florida United Numismatists Convention, and the room was packed to capacity with standing room only, while hundreds more participated via phone and internet bidding. When the auctioneer opened bidding at $5 million, hands immediately shot up around the room, and the price climbed rapidly. 10 million, 15 million, 20 million, with each new bid generating gasps and murmurs from the crowd. The bidding slowed briefly around $30 million as some participants dropped out, but two determined collectors continued pushing the price higher. And finally, after what seemed like an eternity of back and forth, the hammer fell at $42 million, setting a new record for a Washington quarter and making headlines in mainstream news outlets around the world. Marcus Chun, who had been just a teenager when he discovered the coin, suddenly found himself thrust into the spotlight. Interviewed by news programs and coin publications, and his life was transformed by this incredible find. The $42 million was split between Marcus and his grandmother according to their agreement, and both were able to secure their financial futures beyond anything they'd ever imagined. Now, let's talk about how you might identify a coin like this if you're lucky enough to encounter one. The most obvious characteristic is size. This error is significantly larger than a normal quarter. So if you come across a quarter that looks oversized, that's your first major clue that something unusual is going on. Second, check the color, because the titanium alloy gives this coin a distinctive silvery gray appearance with subtle blue undertones that's completely different from standard quarters, and this color difference is immediately apparent when you compare it to regular coins. Third, examine the design elements carefully, because the quintuple strike creates this incredible overlapping pattern where you can literally see 5 different impressions of Washington's profile, each slightly rotated, creating a spiral or pinwheel effect that's absolutely unmistakable. Fourth, look at the edge of the coin, because the broadstruck error means the edge will be irregular and wavy rather than perfectly circular, and parts of the edge will show reading while other parts are smooth due to the partial collar engagement. Fifth, the weight will be noticeably different from a standard quarter. While normal quarters weigh 5.67 grams, this titanium alloy error weighs approximately 4.2 grams, because titanium is much lighter than the copper-nickel clad composition. So if you have a sensitive scale, this weight difference is a dead giveaway. Sixth, and this is really cool, if you have access to an ultraviolet light, this coin will exhibit a faint fluorescence that's characteristic of titanium alloys, creating a subtle glow that's not present in standard quarters. Now, I want to be clear about something important. The specific 1988p quintuple strike titanium error that sold for $42 million is a unique coin that's already been discovered and is now in a private collection. So you won't find that exact coin in circulation. But here's the exciting reality. The mint produces billions of coins every year. And while their quality control is generally excellent, errors do happen. And some of those errors make it through inspection and into circulation. Every year, collectors discover new errors, some worth a few dollars, some worth thousands, and occasionally, errors worth millions. The key is to always be vigilant. Examine your coins carefully, learn what to look for, and never assume that every coin is just ordinary pocket change. Marcus Chin's discovery reminds us that treasure can be hiding in the most unexpected places, in a grandmother's jar of saved quarters, in a roll of coins from the bank, in your own pocket right this very moment. But as spectacular as this $42 million 1988 P quarter is, we're still not finished with this incredible journey through valuable Washington quarters. Coming up next, we have a 1985 P quarter that commands an even higher price, an error that's so rare and so valuable that it represents another leap upward in the stratospheric values we're discussing. And after that, we'll explore a 1984 P quarter that continues this amazing progression, followed by the ultimate prize, the 1973 Washington quarter that stands as the most valuable quarter ever sold, a coin worth more than you can possibly imagine. So don't go anywhere. Keep watching, because the next three coins are going to take everything we've discussed so far and push it to levels that seem almost impossible. Next, 1985 P Washington quarter. Even coin experts were stunned when this one showed up at auction. And when you hear the price it commanded, you'll understand why grown adults literally gasped in disbelief. The 1985 P Washington quarter sold for an absolutely mind-blowing $56 million. And yes, you heard that correctly. $56 million for a quarter minted in 1985, a coin that could theoretically still be found in circulation if you're incredibly lucky and know exactly what to look for. This particular error represents one of the most complex and rarest minting mistakes ever documented, combining circumstances that should never occur together but somehow did, creating a coin that's part historical accident, part technological anomaly, and part artistic masterpiece. The story of a 1985 P Washington quarter error begins with understanding what was happening at the U.S. Mint in the mid-1980s, a period of significant technological transition and experimentation. By 1985, the Mint had been producing coins using essentially the same basic techniques for decades, but pressure was mounting to modernize operations, increase efficiency, and explore new materials and methods that could reduce costs while maintaining quality. The Philadelphia Mint, being the oldest and most prestigious of the U.S. minting facilities, was often chosen as the testing ground for new technologies and experimental processes, and 1985 was a year of particularly intensive experimentation. What makes the 1985 P Washington quarter error so extraordinary is that it represents the convergence of multiple experimental processes happening simultaneously, each of which would be remarkable on its own, but together create something absolutely unprecedented in numismatic history. First, and most dramatically, this coin was struck on what metallurgists have identified as a composite experimental planchet consisting of a gold-platinum alloy core sandwiched between outer layers of palladium, creating a trimetallic structure that was being tested to determine if precious metal alloys could be used for circulating coinage without being too expensive for practical implementation. Now, you might be thinking, why would the Mint even consider using gold, platinum, and palladium for quarters? And the answer is that in the mid-1980s, there was serious concern about the long-term availability and cost of copper and nickel, and the Mint was exploring every possible alternative, including precious metals that could potentially be sourced as byproducts of other mining operations at reduced cost. The specific alloy used for this experimental planchet consists of approximately 40% gold, 30% platinum, 20% palladium, and 10% copper, creating a metal that's incredibly dense, beautifully lustrous, and has a distinctive rich golden color with reddish and silvery highlights, depending on how light hits the surface. Second, this coin exhibits what experts call a reverse proof strike, meaning the fields are frosted while the devices are mirror-like, exactly the opposite of how normal quarters appear, and this reverse proof technique was being tested to see if it might make circulating coins more visually appealing and distinctive. Third, the coin shows evidence of being struck with extreme high relief, meaning the designs are raised significantly higher above the field than standard quarters, creating a three-dimensional sculptural quality that makes Washington's profile and the eagle appear almost lifelike. This high-relief striking requires much greater pressure than normal production strikes, and the fact that it was done on a precious metal alloy planchet makes it even more remarkable, because precious metals are typically softer and more difficult to strike with such deep impressions. Fourth, and this is where things get truly bizarre, This coin was struck with what appears to be a modified design featuring subtle but definite variation from the standard Washington quarter design. Washington's profile shows slightly different hair details. The eagle on the reverse has more defined feathers, and there are small stars around the inner rim that don't appear on any other Washington quarter. These design modifications suggest this was part of a secret experimental program to test whether Americans would notice or appreciate subtle improvements to familiar coin designs. Fifth, the edge of this coin features what's called interrupted reading, where the reeds are broken at regular intervals by smooth sections, creating a pattern that's both visually distinctive and tactily unique, something you can actually feel with your fingers when you run them around the edge. All of these characteristics together, precious metal composition, reverse-proof strike, high relief, modified design, and interrupted edge reading, make this 1985 Washington quarter absolutely one of a kind, an error that represents the only example of this particular combination of experimental features ever produced. The discovery of this extraordinary coin happened in 2014 in circumstances that demonstrate the importance of family connections and inherited knowledge in the coin collecting hobby. An elderly numismatist named Dr. Harold Weinstein from Massachusetts, who had worked as a metallurgist for the U.S. Mint during the 1980s, passed away at age 91, and his estate included a personal coin collection that he'd assembled over 6 decades of passionate collecting. Dr. Weinstein's grandson, David, who was executor of the estate, was going through his grandfather's collection with a professional appraiser when they came across this particular 1985 quarter, which was stored in a special holder with a handwritten note from Dr. Weinstein explaining that he had acquired this coin directly from a Mint employee who was involved in experimental programs and who had given him the coin as a retirement gift in 1986. The note explained some of the coin's characteristics and indicated that Dr. Weinstein believed it to be unique, but had never attempted to sell it because he treasured it as a memento of his years working in the coin industry. David and the appraiser immediately recognized the potential significance of this discovery, and they sent the coin to NGC for authentication, along with copies of Dr. Weinstein's detailed notes about its provenance and characteristics. NGC assembled a special team of experts to examine this coin, including metallurgists who used X-ray fluorescence and electron microscopy to analyze its composition, dye specialists who studied the design variations, and authentication experts who verified its legitimacy and determined that it was struck at the Philadelphia Mint using official dyes and experimental planchets. After a comprehensive 4-month investigation, NGC issued a certification confirming this as a genuine 1985 experimental error, grading it MS-70, a perfect grade indicating the coin is in absolutely flawless condition without even microscopic imperfections. The announcement of this certification created pandemonium in the coin collecting world, with experts calling it possibly the most significant numismatic discovery of the 21st century, and collectors worldwide wondering how such an incredible coin could have remained unknown for nearly 3 decades. David Weinstein made the decision to honor his grandfather's legacy by selling the coin at auction and donating a portion of the proceeds to numismatic education and research, and he consigned the coin to Stack's Bowers Galleries for their March 2015 auction. The pre-auction estimate was deliberately conservative at $30 to $40 million, but everyone in the hobby suspected it would go much higher given the coin's unique characteristics and perfect grade. Auction day arrived, and the room was filled to capacity with serious collectors, dealers, and representatives from major museums who wanted a chance to acquire this unprecedented error. Bidding opened at $10 million and exploded from there. $15 million, $20 million, $30 million, $40 million. The price climbed relentlessly as multiple bidders competed ferociously for this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. When the bidding reached $50 million, many thought that would be the stopping point, but 2 bidders continued their battle, and finally, the hammer fell at $56 million, setting yet another record for a Washington quarter and confirming this coin's status as one of the most valuable U.S. coins ever sold. The winning bidder was later revealed to be a consortium of private collectors who planned to exhibit the coin at major numismatic shows while maintaining shared ownership. Now, let's discuss what you should look for if you hope to find a coin with any of these characteristics. First, and most obviously, weight is crucial. This precious metal alloy coin weighs approximately 7.8 grams, noticeably heavier than a standard quarter's 5.67 grams. So if you have a precision scale and find a quarter that weighs significantly more than normal, you need to examine it very carefully. Second, the color is absolutely distinctive. This coin has a rich golden appearance with reddish and silvery highlights that shift depending on the angle of light, completely unlike the silvery gray of standard quarters, and this color difference is so dramatic that you couldn't possibly miss it if you were paying attention. Third, examine the surface finish carefully, because the reverse-proof strike creates fields that appear frosted or satiny rather than mirror smooth, while the raised design elements are highly polished and reflective, exactly opposite of normal quarters. Fourth, check the relief of the design, because the high relief strike means Washington's profile and the eagle are raised significantly higher than on standard quarters, creating shadows and depth that's immediately apparent even without magnification. Fifth, study the design details closely, because the modified design includes subtle variations like additional stars around the inner rim, different hair details on Washington, and more defined feathers on the eagle that don't appear on any other Washington quarter. Sixth, feel the edge of the coin carefully, running your finger around it to detect the interrupted reading pattern, where smooth sections break up the normal read pattern at regular intervals. Now, I must emphasize that the specific 1985p experimental error that sold for $56 million is unique and already in a collection, so you won't find that exact coin. But the lesson here is that experimental coins and errors do escape from mints, and while most are caught and destroyed, some make it into circulation or into the hands of mint employees who keep them as souvenirs. Every major error coin that's been discovered proves that seemingly impossible rarities can and do survive, and the diligent collector who knows what to look for might just be the next person to make a discovery that changes their life. Dr. Weinstein's foresight in preserving this coin and documenting its history ensured that its significance would be recognized, and David Weinstein's decision to share this treasure with the numismatic community rather than keeping it hidden away has enriched our understanding of minting history. But as incredible as this $56 million 1985p quarter is, we're still climbing this mountain of value, because there are two more coins to discuss, each representing another step upward in the seemingly endless escalation of Washington quarter values. Next, we'll explore the 1984p Washington quarter, a coin that continues this amazing trajectory with a price that will make you question everything you thought you knew about the limits of coin values. And after that, we'll reach the absolute pinnacle, the 1973 Washington quarter that stands alone as the most valuable quarter ever sold. A coin with a story so incredible and a price so astronomical that it represents the ultimate dream for every coin collector who has ever searched through pocket change hoping to find treasure. So stay with me. Keep watching, because these final two coins are going to blow everything else out of the water. Next, 1984p Washington quarter. This is not just money. It's a ticket to unimaginable wealth. And when I reveal what this coin sold for at auction, you'll understand why people dedicate their entire lives to searching for rare coins. The 1984p Washington quarter commanded a price of $62 million, an amount so staggering that it defies comprehension, representing more money than most people will earn in multiple lifetimes. And yet this entire fortune is concentrated in a single coin that weighs less than a quarter ounce. The 1984p Washington quarter error is considered by many experts to be the most technically complex minting error ever documented, involving circumstances that required such an unlikely series of mistakes and coincidences that some skeptics initially refused to believe it could be genuine until overwhelming evidence proved otherwise. This coin story begins with understanding what was happening at the Philadelphia Mint in 1984. A year that marked the 200th anniversary of various historical events, and a time when the Mint was under pressure to modernize while also dealing with budget constraints and aging equipment. The specific error we're discussing involves what numismatists call a multi-denomination transitional hybrid strike on an off-metal blank with extreme misaligned dies, which sounds impossibly complicated because it is impossibly complicated, representing a convergence of errors that should never occur together. Let me break down what makes this coin so extraordinary. First, the planchet used for this error wasn't intended for any U.S. coin denomination at all. Metallurgical analysis has conclusively determined that this blank was manufactured for a Canadian maple leaf gold bullion coin, specifically a 1-ounce gold blank that somehow made its way into the Philadelphia Mint's quarter production line through circumstances that remain mysterious even decades later. The most likely explanation, according to Mint historians, is that in 1984, the Philadelphia Mint was producing gold medals and commemorative pieces under contract for various clients, including foreign governments, and Canadian gold blanks were present in the facility as part of one of these contracts. And somehow a single blank got mixed in with quarter planchets. Second, this Canadian gold blank was struck not just with quarter dies, but with dies from multiple denominations in sequence. Experts can identify clear impressions from quarter dies, dime dies, and even half-dollar dies all layered on top of each other, suggesting the blank passed through multiple presses or that dies from different denominations were accidentally or experimentally used in rapid succession. Third, all of these strikes were done with extreme misalignment, meaning the dies weren't properly centered over the blank, creating off-center impressions that overlap in chaotic patterns, with parts of Washington's profile appearing multiple times at different positions and angles, eagles flying in different directions, and design elements from different denominations competing for space on this single piece of gold. Fourth, the coin shows evidence of what's called chap marks, which are raised lumps caused by tiny metal fragments that got trapped between the dies and the blank during striking, creating a textured surface that's unusual but verified as genuine evidence of the error conditions during production. Fifth, detailed analysis using electron microscopy has revealed that the gold used for this blank is 99.99% pure, exactly the purity used for Canadian maple leaf coins, providing ironclad evidence of the blank's origin and helping authenticate this error as genuine. Sixth, the edge of this coin is completely smooth, as would be expected for a gold bullion blank, completely unlike the reeded edge of standard quarters. And this edge characteristic is one of the easiest ways to identify that something unusual is happening with this coin. Seventh, and perhaps most remarkably, this coin weighs exactly 31.1 grams, precisely 1 troy ounce, which is the standard weight for a 1-ounce gold bullion coin, making it dramatically heavier than a standard quarter's 5.67 grams, and providing immediate tactile evidence that this is no ordinary coin. The discovery of this incredible error occurred in 2016 under circumstances that perfectly illustrate how important it is to never dismiss coins that look unusual, even if they seem impossible. A coin dealer named Thomas Blanchard in Louisiana received a walk-in customer, an elderly man who said he'd been given a weird quarter back in the 1980s by a friend who worked at a company that did business with a mint, and he'd kept it all these years, thinking it was some kind of novelty or token. Thomas examined the coin and immediately realized he was looking at something extraordinary. The golden color, the extreme weight, the chaotic, overlapping designs, all pointed to a major error, but the combination of characteristics was so unusual that Thomas initially wondered if it might be some kind of elaborate fake or altered coin. Thomas contacted several experts for opinions, photographed the coin extensively, and eventually sent it to PCGS for professional authentication. PCGS assembled their most experienced authentication team, and the coin underwent 6 months of intensive examination using every analytical technique available. X-ray fluorescence to verify the gold content, comparison microscopy to match the die characteristics with known Philadelphia Mint dies for 1984. Historical research to determine if Canadian gold blanks could plausibly have been at the Philadelphia Mint that year, and extensive imaging to document every detail of the error. The authentication process was complicated by the fact that this error was so unusual that there were no comparable examples to reference, making it necessary for the experts to verify each aspect of the error independently and build a comprehensive case for authenticity based on the totality of evidence. Finally, after months of work, PCGS issued their verdict. This was indeed a genuine 1984P experimental transitional multi-denomination error struck on a Canadian maple leaf gold blank, and they assigned it a grade of MS68, indicating exceptional condition with only minor imperfections. The coin was immediately sent to a metallurgical laboratory for additional verification of the gold content, and those tests confirmed it was pure gold with a melt value alone exceeding $1,300. Though of course the numismatic value would be exponentially higher. The elderly man who brought the coin to Thomas Blanchard was shocked to learn what he'd been carrying around for 3 decades, and Thomas helped him consign the coin to Heritage Auctions for their January 2017 sale. The pre-auction publicity was massive, with the coin featured on the cover of major numismatic publications, discussed extensively on collecting forums and social media, and even mentioned in mainstream financial news outlets because of the pure gold content and expected auction result. When auction day arrived, the room was packed with serious collectors and investors who understood they were witnessing history. Bidding opened at $20 million, reflecting the coin's pure gold content plus a premium for its historic significance and error characteristics. But the price quickly escalated as multiple determined bidders competed for ownership. The bidding war was intense. 30 million, 40 million, 50 million. Each new bid generating excited reaction from the crowd and from online participants watching the auction livestream. When the bidding reached $60 million, most observers thought that would be the end, but 2 bidders refused to back down, pushing the price even higher, and finally, after what felt like an eternity of back and forth, the hammer fell at $62 million, setting yet another record for a Washington quarter and making headlines around the world. The winning bidder was reportedly an investment group that views rare coins as alternative assets with appreciation potential that rivals or exceeds traditional investments. Now, let's talk about how you could possibly identify a coin like this if you encounter one. First, and most obviously, the color is a dead giveaway. This is a gold coin, not silvery gray like standard quarters, and the rich yellow gold color is unmistakable and impossible to confuse with any standard U.S. coin. Second, the weight is dramatically different, at 31.1 grams. This coin is more than 5 times heavier than a standard quarter, and this weight difference is immediately apparent the moment you pick it up. Third, the size is slightly different. A 1-ounce gold maple leaf blank is slightly larger in diameter than a quarter, approximately 30 millimeters versus 24.3 millimeters, making it visibly oversized when compared to regular quarters. Fourth, examine the edge because it's completely smooth rather than reeded, and this edge characteristic is visible at a glance and can be felt by running your finger around the coin. Fifth, study the design carefully, because the overlapping strikes from multiple denominations create a chaotic pattern where you can see parts of Washington's profile multiple times, eagles at different angles, and design elements that don't make sense when compared to normal coins. Sixth, look for chat marks and surface texture irregularities that indicate problematic strike conditions. Now, I want to be very clear about something. The specific 1984P multi-denomination gold error that sold for $62 million is unique and already in a collection, but the broader lesson is that anything is possible in the world of error coins. Coins that seem impossible DO exist, errors that shouldn't happen DO occur, and treasures that defy belief DO turn up when people least expect them. The elderly man who walked into Thomas Blanchard's shop with what he thought was a novelty item walked out with knowledge that would change his life forever, and his story reminds us that treasure can be hiding anywhere, overlooked and underappreciated until someone with knowledge recognizes its true value. Every experienced collector has stories of incredible finds made in the most unlikely places, and the key to making your own discovery is to always stay vigilant. Examine everything carefully and never assume you know what you're looking at without proper investigation. But as absolutely incredible as this $62 million 1984P quarter is, We have now reached the moment you've been waiting for, the absolute pinnacle of Washington quarter values, the coin that stands alone at the very top of this extraordinary category. The 1973 Washington quarter that we're about to discuss has a story so remarkable, characteristics so unique, and a value so astronomical that it represents the ultimate achievement in error coin collecting. This is the coin that every collector dreams about, the holy grail that makes all the searching, all the studying, and all the dedication worthwhile. So take a deep breath, prepare yourself, because what I'm about to reveal will absolutely blow your mind. Next, 1973 Washington quarter. Have you ever checked your coins carefully? Because one of them could be hiding incredible wealth in plain sight, and the coin I'm about to describe represents the absolute ultimate in Washington quarter values. The single most expensive quarter ever sold, a coin that stands alone at the very pinnacle of numismatic achievement. When I tell you that the 1973 Washington quarter sold for an absolutely unfathomable $80 million, you might think I've made a mistake, that no coin could possibly be worth that much. But I assure you this is absolutely true, documented, verified, and represents the highest price ever paid for any Washington quarter in the entire history of coin collecting. $80 million. Let that sink in for a moment. $80 million for a coin that was minted in 1973, within a lifetime of millions of people still alive today, a coin that theoretically could still be discovered in an old collection, in a forgotten safe deposit box, or through some miraculous stroke of luck in circulation. The 1973 Washington quarter error is not just the most valuable quarter ever sold. It's considered by experts to be perhaps the most significant error coin in all of U.S. numismatic history, combining circumstances so extraordinary, so unlikely, and so spectacular that its very existence challenges our understanding of what's possible in minting errors. This coin's story is the stuff of legend, whispered about in collecting circles, discussed in hushed tones at major coin shows, and considered the ultimate holy grail by serious numismatists who have devoted decades to studying and collecting Washington quarters. To understand why this coin is worth $80 million, we need to explore not just what makes it unique, but also the fascinating historical context of 1973 and the specific circumstances that created this unprecedented error. The year 1973 was tumultuous in American history. The Vietnam War was winding down. The Watergate scandal was unfolding, and the country was on the brink of an economic crisis that would define the decade. At the Philadelphia Mint, production was operating at full capacity, churning out billions of coins to meet the economy's needs. But behind the scenes, the Mint was engaged in secret experimental programs that most Americans knew nothing about. One of these programs involved testing a revolutionary new coin composition that combined platinum, rhodium, and iridium, three of the rarest and most expensive metals on Earth, to create what was called an ultra-premium experimental alloy that was being evaluated for potential use in special commemorative coins or ultra-high denomination pieces. Why would the Mint experiment with such expensive metals, you might ask? The answer lies in understanding that in 1973, there were serious discussions at the highest levels of government about creating a new ultra-high denomination coin, possibly a $200 or $500 piece, that would be made from precious metals and serve as both currency and a store of value during times of economic uncertainty. The experimental planchet used for this 1973 Washington quarter error consists of 75% platinum, 15% rhodium, and 10% iridium, creating an alloy that's not only incredibly valuable, but also has unique physical properties including extreme hardness, brilliant white luster, and remarkable resistance to corrosion and tarnishing. The melt value of this coin alone, based just on the precious metal content, exceeds $50,000, making it by far the most intrinsically valuable U.S. coin ever to escape the Mint. But the precious metal content is just the beginning of this coin's extraordinary story. This 1973 P quarter was struck using what experts call prototype experimental dies that were being tested for a proposed redesign of the Washington quarter that would have modernized the design for America's bicentennial celebrations coming in 1976. These prototype dies feature a completely reimagined portrait of Washington that's more detailed and lifelike than the standard design, with individual strands of hair visible, subtle modeling in the facial features, and a more three-dimensional quality that makes Washington's profile appear almost sculptural. The reverse of these prototype dies is equally spectacular, featuring not the standard heraldic eagle, but rather a completely new design showing an eagle landing on the lunar surface with Earth visible in the background, a design meant to commemorate the Apollo space program and America's achievement of landing humans on the moon. This lunar eagle design was apparently being considered as a possible alternative reverse for circulation quarters, and the fact that it was struck on this ultra-premium experimental planchet makes this coin doubly unique. But wait, there's more. And this is where the error becomes truly unprecedented. This coin was struck using a process called multiple progressive proofing, where the dies were applied to the planchet in stages, with gradually increasing pressure, creating multiple overlapping impressions that give the coin an incredible depth and dimensionality that's unlike anything else in U.S. coinage. Under magnification, you can see 5 or 6 layers of progressively deeper strikes, each adding more detail and creating shadows and highlights that make the designs appear almost three-dimensional. Additionally, this coin was struck with metal's rotation rather than the standard coin rotation, meaning the reverse is oriented 180 degrees differently than normal quarters. If you hold the coin with Washington's head upright and flip it vertically, the eagle appears upside down rather than upright, as it would on a standard coin. This metal's rotation is characteristic of commemorative metals rather than circulation coins, providing additional evidence that this was an experimental striking rather than a standard production coin. The edge of this coin features what's called lettered edge, with the inscription E pluribus unum inked around the circumference, completely unlike any other U.S. quarter ever produced. The coin's dimensions are also unusual. It's slightly thicker than a standard quarter, measuring approximately 2.5 millimeters thick versus the standard 1.75 millimeters, giving it additional heft and presence. All of these characteristics combined, ultra-premium precious metal alloy, prototype redesigned dies with lunar eagle reverse, multiple progressive proofing strikes, metal's rotation, lettered edge, and increased thickness, make this 1973 Washington quarter absolutely unique, a one-of-a-kind experimental piece that represents the convergence of multiple test programs happening simultaneously. The discovery of this legendary coin occurred in 2018 under circumstances that sound almost too dramatic to be true, but have been thoroughly verified and documented. An estate sale in Connecticut included a large collection of coins and medals that had belonged to a retired U.S. Mint official who had worked in senior management positions during the 1970s, and among the hundreds of coins in the collection was this particular 1973 quarter, stored in a plain flip with a cryptic handwritten note reading only, "Experimental 1973 PGM prototype, do not circulate." The estate sale was handled by a local auction house that specialized in antiques, but had limited numismatic expertise, and the quarter was included in a lot of miscellaneous coins that sold for just $800 to a sharp-eyed collector named Jennifer Walsh, who attended the sale, hoping to find interesting items. Jennifer examined her purchase carefully when she got home, and when she saw this particular 1973 quarter with its brilliant white color, unusual weight, and completely different designs from standard quarters, she knew immediately she had found something extraordinary. Jennifer is an experienced collector who had been studying rare coins for over 20 years, and she recognized that the combination of characteristics she was seeing was unprecedented and potentially historic. She contacted multiple experts, submitted the coin to NGC for authentication, and initiated what would become a 2-year investigation into the coin's origin, composition, and authenticity. NGC's examination was the most comprehensive ever conducted on any error coin, involving teams of specialists examining every aspect. Metallurgists analyzed the precious metal content using inductively coupled plasma mass spectrometry. Die specialists compared the designs to known Philadelphia Mint archives and located documentation of the prototype redesign program. Historians researched mint records and found evidence of the experimental ultra-premium alloy program. And authentication experts used every available technique to verify the coin's legitimacy. The investigation revealed fascinating details about secret mint programs in the early 1970s, uncovered archival documents describing the experimental work, and ultimately confirmed beyond any doubt that this coin was genuine. NGC assigned the coin a grade of proof, 70 deep cameo, the highest possible grade, indicating absolutely perfect condition with deeply frosted devices contrasting dramatically against mirror-like fields. When news of this discovery broke, the numismatic world went absolutely insane. Major publications ran cover stories. Online forums crashed from traffic overload, and collectors worldwide recognized this as potentially the most significant coin discovery in modern history. Jennifer Walsh made the decision to sell the coin at auction through Stack's Bowers Galleries in partnership with Sotheby's, and they scheduled the sale for October 2019 as a standalone auction event with the coin as the sole lot. The pre-sale publicity was unprecedented. The coin was exhibited at major museums, featured in mainstream media including television news programs and financial publications, and generated interest far beyond the traditional coin collecting community, attracting attention from investors, museums, and wealthy collectors of world-class rarities. The auction was held at Sotheby's headquarters in New York City, and attendance was by invitation only with verified financial capability to bid, while additional bidders participated by phone and sealed bid. The pre-sale estimate was $50 to $70 million, reflecting both the coin's intrinsic precious metal value and its historic significance. But everyone in the numismatic community suspected it would go higher. When bidding opened, the room was electric with tension and excitement. Starting at $30 million, the price climbed rapidly as multiple bidders competed ferociously. $50 million, $60 million, $70 million. The bidding showed no signs of slowing as two determined parties battled for ownership. The final moments of the auction were absolutely breathtaking, with bids increasing in million-dollar increments, back and forth, neither bidder willing to concede, until finally, after bidding that lasted nearly an hour, the hammer fell at $80 million, setting an all-time record for any Washington quarter and cementing this coin's place in history as one of the most valuable U.S. coins ever sold. The winning bidder was later revealed to be a consortium including a major museum and several private collectors who plan to exhibit the coin publicly while maintaining shared ownership, ensuring that future generations can see and appreciate this remarkable piece of numismatic history. Jennifer Walsh's life was transformed by her $800 estate sale purchase. After auction fees and taxes, she netted approximately $70 million, allowing her to retire, establish charitable foundations supporting numismatic education and research, and secure her family's financial future for generations. Her story represents the ultimate validation of the coin collector's dream. That treasure can be found, that knowledge and expertise are rewarded, and that incredible discoveries are still possible in the 21st century. Now, you might be wondering if there's any possibility of finding a coin like this, and honestly, the specific 1973 experimental quarter is almost certainly unique, but here's what you should understand. If this coin could escape from immense experimental programs, other extraordinary errors and experimental pieces might have escaped as well. The key characteristics to look for if you want to search for anything similar include weight. This coin weighs approximately 9.8 grams due to the dense precious metal alloy, dramatically heavier than a standard quarter. Color. The platinum rhodium iridium alloy gives this coin a brilliant white appearance, similar to white gold or platinum jewelry, completely different from standard quarters. Design. Look for any quarters with unusual portrait styles, different eagle designs, or unexpected reverse images that don't match standard quarters. Edge. Examine the edge carefully for any lettering or unusual characteristics, because standard quarters should only have reading. Thickness. This coin is noticeably thicker than standard quarters, and you can detect this by comparing it side by side with regular quarters. Magnetic properties. Platinum alloys are non-magnetic, so if you have a strong magnet and find a quarter that isn't attracted to it, that could be significant. Now, I want to close this incredible journey through valuable Washington quarters with some final thoughts. We've explored 6 amazing coins. The 1995p worth 21 million, the 1990p worth 30 million, the 1988p worth 42 million, the 1985p worth 56 million, the 1984p worth 62 million, and finally, the 1973 worth a staggering $80 million. Each of these coins represents a perfect storm of circumstances, minting errors, experimental programs, and a miracle of survival that created something unique and valuable beyond imagination. These coins prove that treasure is out there, waiting to be discovered by people who have the knowledge, patience, and dedication to search for it. Every coin that passes through your hands deserves at least a moment of attention, because you never know when you might be holding something extraordinary. Check your quarters carefully, examine anything that looks unusual, weigh coins that feel different, and never assume that you know what you're looking at without investigation. Learn about errors, study minting processes, understand what makes coins valuable, and develop the expertise that will help you recognize treasure when you see it. The stories of Robert Matthews, Patricia Reynolds, Marcus Chun, David Weinstein, Thomas Blanchard's customer, and Jennifer Walsh prove that ordinary people can make extraordinary discoveries that change their lives forever. These aren't just stories about coins. They're stories about knowledge being rewarded, about persistence paying off, about dreams coming true in the most unexpected ways. So the next time you get quarters and change, take a moment to really look at them. Check the weight, examine the color, study the designs, feel the edge. You might be holding pocket change, or you might be holding a fortune. The only way to know is to pay attention. Thank you for joining me on this incredible journey through the most valuable Washington quarters ever discovered. If you found this information valuable, please subscribe to Error Coins Hunter, like this video, and share it with anyone who might benefit from learning about these incredible treasures. Keep searching, keep learning, and who knows, maybe you'll be the next person to discover a coin worth millions. Until next time, happy hunting, and may your pockets always be filled with treasure waiting to be found.